Welcome to the Default Profitable Podcast. You're listening to an episode about how to, create, grow, and scale a creative business. I'm your host, Matt Nettleton, and today my guest is Darren Cooper. Darren, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Great to be here.
So we met on the phone like 2 weeks ago.
That's right.
Don't really know much about you. Why don't you take 2 or 3 minutes, introduce yourself,
Yeah.
and then we can talk about your company.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Darren Cooper, born and raised in the good old state of Indiana. Lived here pretty much my whole entire life, minus a few little jaunts to some different areas for school and whatnot. But yeah, here, a dad of 4 crazy kids. My wife Lauren and I have been married the last, I guess it'll almost be 6 years here. And so we a lot of craziness. We're in the throes of little kids right now, so
Yes.
it's nice and crazy. And so musician for most of my life. Did a lot of music production. Was on some church staffs doing music for a while, and then kind of found my way through trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grow up into video production and now business ownership. So it's been quite the journey, but a lot of fun along the way.
So I have to ask, because when you sent your description over, I read it. Tell me about the kids' names.
It's always a point that gets brought up. So yes, I have 4 kids, and all of them have really weird names, and it's totally okay to say that to my face. I'm not offended. So my oldest, her name is Story Cash. That is something, if you ever watched this is the only story, no pun intended, that I'll tell you about the names, but story I heard in an old movie called Lady in the Water by M. Night Shyamalan. If you ever saw that old movie, it's
Okay.
weird movie. M. Night Shyamalan did like Signs and, oh man, a couple other movies. Anyway, that's not the point. But I heard that one of the main characters was named Story, and I was like, that's the most beautiful name I've ever heard. And it just stuck out to me. And so that was the first name. So Story Cash. Then we have Vinyl Drew. Yes, like the record. Or it depends on what decade it is. Some people say flooring. Some people say record based on the decades you're in. So Vinyl Drew. We got Indiana Wren. And we have Valor Ward, who has just joined us here about 11, 12 weeks ago. So, yeah, crazy kid names. But
So 4 kids, what's the age spread?
So my oldest is 10. And then we have, so Story is 10, Vinyl is 4, Indy is 2, and Valor is now, you can call them 12 weeks or whatever you're supposed to say for a newborn.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a 25-year-old, a 24-year-old, and a 16-year-old. So
all right. Big gap in there as well.
Yeah. But you're still in that same range. So you are in the bits of crazy.
Yes, we are. So if I randomly fall asleep, it's not you, Matt, I promise.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So tell me about, you mentioned, deciding what you wanted to do when you grew up. You had done some music production, worked at some churches.
Yeah.
So why did you end up starting this business? And what is the name of the business?
Yeah. So 1898 Creative, it kind of stemmed out of, it was not necessarily something that I dreamed up and thought, hey, let's do this, and dreamed about for years and years, and then finally did. It kind of happened by accident, if I'm honest. As part of being a musician, if you know musicians at all, we're out doing our thing, playing out live, trying to do studio work, trying to do all these odds and ends in music. And obviously where I'm at, it wasn't necessarily the most lucrative. I was able to do some things, but it wasn't like, rolling in the Benjamins, as some might say. And so I was doing music production, was doing some church work, was just trying to piece this together, all while having, my day job or other jobs that kind of kept the lights on. Right. And so always kind of had music as this side hustle, if you will, as I was just doing the job that kind of paid the bills. But in those jobs, I was working for a couple of different organizations, one being a family business and one being a good friend of mine. And I was kind of, there wasn't like a job title that I just had. It wasn't like I was the project manager or the sales guy. It was like, we like you. You're on the team, you know, especially in the
Yeah.
family business. It's like, well, you're part of the family. Let's go. And so I didn't really know what I was doing. So it was a ton of like, what's going on? What am I supposed to do? And in the part of the process of these businesses or these jobs that I had, I kind of became what I call the catch-all creative, right? I was the guy that was like, we need a website done. Okay, I'll figure it out. Like, oh, we need a graphic design for this flyer that we're doing over. Well, I'll do it, or hey, we need a video to go out for this newsletter. Okay, I'll do it. And that was what my job became, was starting to kind of narrow into the creative field. Okay, I started learning email marketing to help. I started learning more marketing practices and like, okay, what do we need to do here? And that led to just doing a lot more video. One newsletter video turned into the next newsletter video and so on and so forth. And so in that process, it became like, I want to make these look better. I want to make these sound better. I want to it just became like this new obsession of mine, all while I was still doing music, all while I was still doing these other jobs. And then one day I woke up and I was just tired. I was tired of the music grind. I was tired of chasing artists for $50, like I was tired of, basically four kids looking at me. I didn't have four at the time, but having these kids look at me going, how am I going to provide for you and give you a life that's something?
And
And I
it's
was just,
amazing they can say that when they're like 18 months old.
I
Like,
know.
they
How
can't
did
do anything else, but they can
ah,
say that to you.
just really spoke to my soul. I was like, man, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I woke up and I was just tired. And I kind of said, you know what? I really enjoy this video thing. Like I really do. And there's some music parallels, like when you edit, it's kind of, there's kind of some parallels there. And so I just said, man, let's just go for this. And so I ended up taking the two businesses I was working for, one the family business and one my friend, and saying, hey, will you guys become my first clients? And they said, yeah, we're all in. And they kind of helped support like the foundation. And it allowed me to go out and try my hand at building a business. And that was not really why I got into it, but one video project turned into another that turned into another. And next thing I knew, I turned around and was like, oh, I'm kind of like an entrepreneur now in all of this. I guess
Yes.
that's what we're doing. So that's what led to the start of 1898. That was the long-winded version of that.
So what year did 1898 start?
Man, I always struggle with that because it was kind of like this organic thing,
Yeah.
right? Like it was probably 3 years ago now. So in 21, 22 ish, right,
Okay.
right in that time is when I dove out and tried to figure this out.
And if you think back, right, as it's turning from single cell organism,
Mhm,
side hustle, side hustle, side
mhm.
hustle, main gig,
Yeah.
um, what what do you wish you knew that would have accelerated you?
Yeah. I wish I would have known, uh, I'll say it this way. I wish I would have known to surround myself with the opposite of me earlier. And what I mean by that is I have a set of skills, I have a set of ideas, I have a set like things that I do really well. I don't do everything really well. And one of those things I don't do well is like operations and organization and like the building. I'm the creative mind. I can a little bit of that like entrepreneur leader guy. It's like, let's just go take this hill. And they're like, how are we going to do that? I'm like, I don't know. Let's just go. And when I surrounded myself, I brought in a buddy of mine semi early on. I wasn't making tons of money at the time, but enough where I could have him come in from an ops and organization side of things. And his opposite of me was the thing that really changed the game for me building the business. All of a sudden, it was like I looked around and we had like SOPs and we had task management and we had like deliverables and like things were written out. And I was like, oh, we we
We're a
do this. Like
business.
this is it's a legit thing. And not that I didn't do those things, but that was not my mindset. So his mindset was there. And so he came in and we just became that perfect pairing. So looking back, like I go, man, I wish I would have brought him in 6 months earlier, 12 months earlier. Right.
Right.
Because it literally changed the game. And we went from kind of like sometimes delivering on time and sometimes, hey, we need a few more days on this, to like, no, this is, we're hitting, we're on all cylinders. And it kind of was the spark to really kind of get us to that next level.
Now, at what point, I'm assuming that it wasn't while you were by yourself, but at what point did you write your first real business plan?
Mm. I would say that it's only been recently, right? Like, it's only been like, in the recent months, where we get to a place where we go, here is what we're doing, right? Here is the ideal audience, and here's the plan that we're actually trying to execute. And that's been probably in the last 6 months that we really dialed that in, because before it was take on any job that you can find. And, it didn't matter if you were in whatever industry you were in, we were going to help you out. And we said we had some niche things that we were doing, but it wasn't very thought through or organized. It was just find another project, get it done, you know? So probably in the last 6 months is when we really dialed in more of like the business plan of what we're doing.
So the so this is, 130 episodes into this podcast, and
Yeah.
people have, given me 3 things consistently that they look at when they, if they were gonna give somebody else advice, it would be have a clear strategic plan before you start,
Hmm.
make sure you have a lot of savings,
Hmm.
and make sure you understand your business model. Everybody's like, "Yeah, that's the way you should do it." And I'm like, "Okay, so it doesn't sound like you had a strategic plan."
No, no.
And I know the music probably paid really well, so you had just buckets of cash sitting
Oh,
back.
we were sitting on loads of it. We were
Yeah,
independently wealthy. It was no, we
yeah,
were none of
nope, none
that.
of that. Okay, didn't really have kind of a go to market, "Here's how we're gonna make money" plan either.
Mm-mm, mm-mm, no.
Yeah.
We broke all the molds, I guess, in that
Well,
front.
you are uniquely just like everyone else, right? Everybody knows this is what we should do,
Yep,
and then you say, "Well, but this is what we are going to do."
yep. And
So
man,
it
it's funny, I've never thought of it that way, but it's really, really true. We wanna and I'm even that guy, like, I wanna have the plan or at least a plan.
yeah,
And so, yeah, that's a very unique perspective that I haven't thought of before.
yeah. And I don't think it's terrible to not have some overarching 5-year vision of success. The one thing that even the people who have had plans will tell you is that their plans were garbage.
Yeah, the
Like
plans
that
will change.
Yeah, it's
You
like,
can
"I
plan on
thought I
that.
was gonna do
Yeah.
this, and I ended up doing that."
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
S
that's even happened to us in the last, I've been doing this for 3-ish years, right? And just taking on any project that we can, and now, like I was saying, starting to narrow down into kind of more of the niche of what we do, and you go, "Oh, man, this is way different than what I was doing 3 years ago. I thought it was gonna be this, and now it's this." And so
So, what is the niche that you're settling into?
yeah, so we're really settling into at 1898 helping coaches and consultants with content creation and winning with video, which really means helping you become that authority or that thought leader through content in whatever niche that you're in. And so we've spent the last probably 6 months or so, maybe not even that long, developing what we call the content creation operating system, which we really want to be a done for you process that as a coach and consultant, you have a message, you have a voice, you have this thing that burns inside of you that you want to help people with. And now all of a sudden you have to become a content creator and a web designer and all these other things. And you're wearing all these hats. So what we want to do is come alongside of you and say, let's install this operating system where you show up once a month, do your content, and we kind of handle everything else, delivering that to all the different things, whether it's podcasting, whether it's YouTube education, and all of the things that go with that is really kind of what we're focused on now. Not that we don't do other video projects, because we still do, like, okay, a coach or consultant still needs maybe a speaker sizzle reel, or they need a brand story video, or they need testimonial videos. Like, all those things are still in our wheelhouse, but we really want to help coaches and consultants win with their content strategy is kind of where we're leaning into these days.
And so, how effective because you kind of waffled there, but how effective are you when it comes to saying no to the things that don't lead you to your niche?
Yeah, and if I'm honest, Matt, we're still working on that because we've built a business over the last 3 years that is kinda all over the place, and our client list is, manufacturing and nonprofits and some coaches, and we got stuff everywhere, construction, right? Like, we got things everywhere, so we're working on the saying no part. Um, I would say probably in the last few months, yeah, we've focused on the operating system, and that's what has been attracted to us, so we haven't had to necessarily say no, and we're almost to the place. I'm gonna say almost. We're almost to a place where I can say confidently, like, "Hey, that's not for us. Let me connect you with a friend of mine," right? But we're not quite there yet. We're still in the testing process of some of this. We're working on trying to get our 5, like, first official clients in there to go, "Hey, work with us here to make sure that this is good." And so we're still pretty early on in the process. So I'm not to a place where I can say no yet. So
All right. Um, you probably have some friends that are musical
Mm,
that are kind of riding the ride that you were before you started your
mm,
business,
yeah.
and they have probably come to you at some point and said, "Hey, you seem to have figured it out over the last 3 years. I'm thinking about starting my own gig."
Mhm.
When somebody comes to you with that, what do you tell them? How do you handle that conversation?
I say all of those things that you said earlier about have a plan and make sure that
Yeah, yeah, you give them the fantasy.
you give them that. No, I tell them is you got to look at what people need and you go help them meet that need. And I mean, that's where business meets the rubber meets the road, if you will. It's like we have something that we can provide and somebody needs that and we meet that need. And when we see business in that way, not a way to suck money out of somebody else or convince them to give us all these big dollars so that we can go live the high life. No, it's walking alongside of them to say, how can I help you with that problem?
Right.
I always go along with the idea of when we're on sales calls or getting to know you calls, that it's looking at it like a doctor would. We don't just prescribe it when they walk in the door and they say, "Oh, I have this hurt," and then all of a sudden there's a prescription written there out the door. No, it's a what's going on, what's causing that, what has changed. You're trying to diagnose the problem, not just
Yes.
sell them something. And so I typically tell folks that are like, "Hey, I want to start something." It's like, all right, what does the market need, what does people need, and then go meet that need. And you
Right.
meet that need enough times, all of a sudden you turn around and you go, "Oh, there's a business here."
Yeah,
And then
who knew?
yeah, like all of a sudden. And that's a little bit of our story. Like how we got here was I knew video was something that I enjoyed and I knew a video was something that people needed. I mean, videos everywhere, right? Content is everywhere. So I was like, okay, that has to be something that I can help with. And when there's overwhelm and when there's frustration with content, we can come alongside of you and we can help solve that problem. And,
Right.
and that's what I tell anybody that wants to do something like this is solve the problem first. That's step one. Everything else from there will fall in place.
All right. So if 2025 Darren could go
Mhm.
back and sit next to 2022 Darren the night before you finally commit to this full time, and you could say to yourself, "Hey, listen, it all works out. You'll be fine."
Yeah,
But tomorrow, when you wake up, here's the thing you focus on first to get this thing launched.
yeah.
What would that focus on first be?
That's a very good question, Matt. And I think where my brain goes is the first thing you focus on is mm, your mindset. And the reason that I say that is because I wasted a lot of time not thinking that what I was offering actually brought any value to the world. That you spend a lot of nights in, in doubt and imposter syndrome, right? Like you just go, I can't, who am I? Who am I to do this? Who am I? Like when I dove into this video thing, it was like, there are 1.5 million better guys that know way more than I do. I'm a music guy that just happened to buy a camera one day, right? Like, what the heck do I know about anything?
Right.
And you lay in bed at night just dwelling on that. You lay in bed at night second guessing your pricing, second guessing your offer, second guessing the things that you're doing. And so I think the big thing that I would go back and say to that 2021, 2022 Darren is like, work on the mindset, you know, believe in yourself, work on the mindset, and that is going to allow for a lot of things to change as you step into it.
Yeah, that's really good advice. That's really good advice. Any other bits of wisdom for somebody that's brand new or thinking about becoming a business owner?
Yeah, man, if you're thinking about it, like, you, you know, plan, do do your due diligence enough to make sure that there's a need out there, but like just like get to that place where you go, let's go. Like, let it just, I got a friend of mine that says strike the match all the time. Just strike the match, right? Like, boom, hit it and go. It's going to be a wild ride. There's going to be times that you think you have it all figured out, and then the next day you'll feel like you don't have it figured out at all. And
That's
and
right.
that is exactly how it will be. Right now in our business, I'm like, okay, we're growing, but I feel confident in it. I'm sure that maybe even tomorrow I'll wake up and feel like, what the heck am I doing? But the minute that you don't strike the match is the minute that you lose. Like, you gotta just dive into it and go. The worst thing that happens is you go back and get another job and like figure it out from there. Like, it's okay. You haven't hurt anybody, you're still alive, you're still breathing, you're still healthy. Like, strike the match, make it happen, get out there and go do it.
Yes, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to remind everybody who's listening that if you want more information about Darren and his company, you can find it over in the show notes at defaultprofitable.com. And if you've listened this far, the first 21 minutes, three ways you can help us: leave a review, hit subscribe, or share an episode. Darren, thanks for being a great guest.
Matt, thank you so much. It's been an honor.
I enjoyed it. For our listeners, we'll be back next week with another episode of Default Profitable. Till then, stay focused, keep working, stay profitable.